I've been driving for hours. Way too many hours. The road stretched out in front of me like a black ribbon, twisting through the rural stretches of western Pennsylvania. My phone had lost service a while ago, and I didn't have anything downloaded to listen to. Just me, the muttering of the engine, and the dark, empty road. It was late, well past midnight, and my eyelids were getting heavy. It was that kind of tired when you begin treating yourself to an extra long blink every now and then. But once my head bobbed off my chest, I knew I had to call it. I needed to stop, just for a little while. It felt like I was made of stone, pressing down into the upholstery of the seat. Up ahead, I spotted a small pull-off, a narrow dirt cutout on the side of the road where the forest opened up just enough to park. I pulled off the road and eased into the niche. The car was suddenly nestled in a little covert of trees. The woods were thick here, pressing in on three sides like walls of black. Tired as I was, it felt all the more cozy. In other circumstances, it might have struck me as a little menacing. I turned off the car, fumbled for the door lock in the dark, and almost immediately began to doze off. The only sound was the skittering of leaves as they stumbled by along the tree line. But even that was barely a whisper. My limbs felt heavy, my tailbone aching from hours behind the wheel. I'll just rest for a bit, I thought. Maybe just close my eyes for 20 minutes before getting back on the road. I reclined my seat halfway and let the weight of exhaustion take me, my eyes fluttering shut. I don't know how long I was out. Could have been minutes, maybe much longer. But something pulled me awake. I opened my eyes slowly, my mind still foggy with sleep. I cleared my throat and tried to stretch as much as I could in the cramped space. I considered getting out and walking around a bit before hitting the road again, but decided it'd be better to cover more ground. I pressed the power seat button to return to an upright position. I buckled my seatbelt and glanced in the rearview mirror out of habit. A pair of dark eyes looked back at me. My body went rigid. Holding my breath, I blinked hard and opened my eyes again. They were still there. A man in a black suit was sitting in the back seat, perfectly still, his eyes locked on mine through the reflection in the mirror. My chest constricted, the air in the car suddenly feeling thick and suffocating. Maybe I was still half dreaming, caught in that semi-conscious space between sleep and waking that Poe wrote about in that story with the poor guy in the torture pit. No, he was there, sitting bolt upright with his hands folded neatly in his lap, as if he'd been waiting politely for me to wake up. His face was pale, even waxy in the moonlight filtering through the trees. And his eyes, there was something wrong with his eyes. They were too dark, too hollow, like twin black pits that seemed to swallow the scant light that reached them. I made a sudden lunge to get out of the car, lurching sideways and grabbing the door handle. I was choked back by my seatbelt slipping up across my neck. Before I could make another move, a hand reached from the back seat and rested softly on my shoulder. I understood I was being told to stay put. I glanced at the door locks. They were down. The windows hadn't been touched either. I noticed that the windshield and windows in the front were fogged up, probably from my body heat and breath. But the rear windows beside him were clear. I was forced to finally gasp and suck in a breath. The silence broken, the man seemed compelled to speak. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice low and sanitized. I tried to speak, but my throat felt like it was closing up, and all that came out was a dry, raspy whisper. Who, who are you? Why are you in this car?" He didn't answer. He just kept staring at me, his face empty of any discernible emotion. Slowly he leaned forward, and I could see him more clearly in the mirror now. His suit was pristine, not a wrinkle on it, but his skin, there was something unnatural about the skin. It was too tight, too thin, like it had been stretched over his bones. That waxy sheen remained. I thought I saw a bluish hue pushing through the flesh around his cheekbones. Tried to reach for the ignition, but my hand was shaking so badly I could barely grip the key. As I fumbled, the man in the back seat spoke again, this time a little louder, but in a mockingly soothing tone. "This was a bad place for you to stop." My fingers finally found the key and I turned it, but nothing happened. The engine wouldn't start. I tried again, twisting the key harder, desperation creeping into my movements, but the car remained dead, the dashboard lights flickering weakly before fading back into darkness. He continued, "Well, bad for you, good for us." The man's reflection smiled then, a slow, aching, lunatic smile. His teeth scared me more than anything else. They were sharp, all of them. Had he sharpened his teeth? Was he human? I could feel my breath coming in short, panicked gasps now. If I got out of the car now, my only option would be running. Running where? Into the woods? Were those his woods? No matter. I was frozen, unable to look away from that awful, empty gaze in the mirror. "I can imagine you're wondering what I want." His voice now a soft hiss. He was leaning closer, his breath cold against my skin. It felt like an anesthetic was being sprayed across the back of my neck. I said nothing. He continued, "Not so much. I just need one." Not bothering to try to understand what this meant, I clicked the seatbelt open. I was sure he'd heard it. Knowing I had seconds at most to act, I forced my hand to the door handle and yanked it open, tumbling out of the car. I flopped clumsily onto the dirt, earth and leaves sticking to my clothes as I scrambled to my feet. My legs felt like jelly, but I ran as fast as I could into the dark and trees. Branches scratched at my face and arms, and the ground was uneven beneath my feet. But I kept running, the sound of my own labored breathing echoing in my ears. I finally collapsed against a tree, gasping for air, my heart pounding. From here, I could see the road below and the ravine that fell away from the highway beyond. I glanced toward my car, expecting to see him standing there beside it, looking right at me. But there was no one. The driver's side door was still swung open. With the dome light on, I could see that the car was empty now. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring, trying to convince myself it had all been some kind of hallucination brought on by exhaustion. I was almost ready to venture closer to the car. It's not like I had much choice. I had no idea where I was, but I knew I was miles from civilization. If I was going to flag someone down for help, I'd need to be on the road anyway. I stood from my crouched position, In that moment, his voice cut through the night and struck me in the chest so forcefully I think I staggered. "I told you, I just need one." The voice echoed through the woods, cutting through the air like a knife. I spun around, scanning the darkness, but there was nothing. Just the dense trees and the suffocating silence of the forest. My pulse was roaring in my ears, and every instinct screamed at me to keep running, to get as far away from the car, from him, as I could. Once his voice had faded, the woods fell silent. I remained still, waiting for something to happen. I didn't hear any footsteps, no rustling leaves, no sign of movement from the road. But I could feel it. He was close, watching, waiting. I had no choice but to move eventually. Slowly, I started backing away, my legs trembling with exhaustion and fear. My eyes darted around, straining to see through the darkness. I would have to travel on foot in the opposite direction until I felt like I'd shaken him. That's when I heard my car start. Panic shot through me. I broke into a run, pushing my way back through the trees, the sound of the engine sputtering to life, and then I heard tires crunch against dirt as the car started to move. Was this all some overdone, creepy carjacking? When I reached the edge of the woods, 20 yards from my car, I paused and looked ahead. He was sitting in the driver's seat. His dead, hollow eyes met mine through the windshield. I heard the car shift into gear, and he slowly pulled the car onto the road. The headlights illuminated the empty highway ahead of him. He didn't speed away. Instead, he eased the car into the lane, rolling down the road at a crawling pace. He looked toward me one more time, and then turned off the headlights. I watched in horror as the car picked up speed. He veered into the other lane. Headlights appeared in the distance, faint at first, then growing brighter as a truck approached. "No, no, no," I muttered, barely able to catch my breath. My legs felt like lead as I stumbled forward, helplessly watching the nightmare unfold. The car was now entirely in the wrong lane, accelerating toward the oncoming truck. The truck's horn blared, a deafening wail that raised the hairs on the back of my neck. My car only barreled ahead, picking up speed. Though I couldn't see him, I knew that eerie, unnatural smile was plastered across his face. There was no time. The truck driver swerved, tires screeching, but the road was too narrow, the margin for error too small. I braced myself, as if I could feel the impending impact, even from where I stood. The collision was violent. Metal crunched against metal, the sound echoing through the trees like a thunderclap. The truck jackknifed, its back end swinging wildly before smashing into the guardrail that ran between the road and the deep ravine. My car, a mangled heap, spun off the road and slammed into the trees. For a moment, everything was still. Then, an enormous metallic groan emanated from the truck, or, more likely, the guardrail it had smashed. I watched, frozen in abject horror, as the guardrail gave way and the truck cab slid ceaselessly toward the edge of the ravine. I was rooted to the spot, unable to move, my body frozen in shock. I should have run for the truck and the driver inside. I should have screamed for help. None of that would have helped, but anything would have been more admirable than standing dumbly as that poor man plummeted to his death. The truck cab disappeared from view without a sound. For an instant, I'd wondered if it had actually fallen. Then, a massive explosion shook the trees. Soon, the glow of flames colored the tree canopy from below. My eyes were drawn back to the road. From my wrecked car, something was moving. A figure emerged from the driver's side, stepping out of the twisted remains of my vehicle as if nothing had happened. The man, unharmed, his suit still immaculate, turned to face me. His cold, dark eyes locked onto mine. Standing in a pool of moonlight beside the wreck, he raised his hand and held up one finger. He shook it once for emphasis. Just one, I thought, understanding all at once. He'd taken the trucker in my place. He turned and stalked confidently into the woods, swallowed by the darkness. I stood there, trembling, the biting smell of burning fuel clinging to the air, the distant orange glow of flames flickering in the ravine. The forest was eerily silent, as though nature itself had recoiled at the violence that had just unfolded. It was my fault. I should never have stopped on that lonely, dark road. I should have stayed awake, pushed through the exhaustion. Instead, I'd let my guard down and let that thing into my car. Among all the things I might have done differently, one haunts me to this day. "I just need one," he'd said.